This broadcast is a Stephen K. Media production.
The success of the small business person is the cornerstone of the American economy. Welcome to the Small Business Today Show with your hosts, Cruise and Hughes. The Small Business Today Show is for and about small business advancement and development. What we do for you. We'll be taking your calls as we provide you small business intelligence and mentorship needed to grow your business creatively. Keep listening. The Small Business Today Show with Cruise and Hughes starts now.
Hello and welcome back to today's episode of Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes right here on Blog Talk Radio. We stream also every day live at ustream.tv. We welcome you guys aboard again with us today as we discuss the topics that inspire entrepreneurs from thought to action. If you want to join the conversation, you're always welcome to do so. We'd love to hear from you. You can call us right here in the studio at 347-857-3958. Again, that number is 347-857-3958. Irv?
Yes, sir, John.
It's a terrific Tuesday.
It's a terrific Tuesday. It's a terrific day to be in your own business.
And how was your day today?
Had a great day today. Had a lot of opportunity to talk to some small business owners today about their supply chain management, which was kind of interesting. And in fact, I think we should do a show one of these days on the supply chain.
Supply chain management. That would be a good topic.
Yes, it would be a good topic, but I'm developing that, so I'm not ready to talk about it just yet. Okay. But I got to tell you that managing the supply chain is an issue for a lot of people.
You know, I know a couple of consultants who specialize on supply chain management.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they always talk about is that if you want to give yourself an immediate raise in your business,
right.
have someone come in and take a look at your supply chain management system.
Yeah, that's very true. A lot of money leaks out of companies that way. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of looking at that, because I have a client company that's dealing with some of that right now, and making some recommendations to them about how to quiet some of the noise in their supply chain.
And, you know, and that's one of the things, too, that you can suffer from in a small business is, you know, naturally that you can suffer from the lack of capital. You can suffer from the lack of clients or sales.
Right.
But then you could also suffer just as greatly by having too many clients or too many sales at one time. And then, I mean, I've seen some customers that really don't, I mean, they're probably losing $1 million a year.
Yeah.
You know, out of their warehouse and don't even know it.
Well, it's interesting you say warehouse, because this particular company is not suffering in the area of sales at all, which created the supply chain issue. So, you know, that's kind of the deep, dark side of being successful in sales, is that you've got to have an organization set up to support that.
Yeah.
And as they grew their sales, their back-end supply chain didn't really come along with them. Yeah. And so that kind of created an issue. So one of these days we're going to talk about that.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, being in business requires for you, it's like riding a surfboard. You know,
that's good.
I mean, it's wobbly and you know, it's fun when you're on it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it could be not so much fun when you fall into the ocean,
especially if that wave is over your head.
Absolutely. And so and you could easily drown, and you're operating your business the same way. I mean, one of the things that we talk about on this show are the myriad of topics, myriad of things that you need to stay on top of as a small business.
Right.
And there are a lot of them. I mean, you have to spend time working on your business from all aspects, even those things that you yourself aren't the most proficient person in.
Well, that's exactly right.
And that becomes a challenge.
It does become a challenge. And as a consultant myself, one of the things that I have to do 9 times out of 10, folks, is I have to recommend that you go get help in these particular areas.
Right.
Because quite honestly, when I go into companies, a lot of times I see that there are problems there, but I also see that one of the reasons why the problems exist a lot of times is because the small business owner doesn't have that expertise or inclination to fix the problem. And so that means now you got to spend money, and that's where it gets sticky, because a lot of times they'll ride along with the problem thinking that that's going to save them money.
Yeah.
And no, that's costing money because you're keeping with the inefficiency in the company.
Yeah. Yeah, or thinking that the problem is going to somehow fix itself. Once you and we laugh, but there are some small business people out there that feel like once we've identified the problem, it'll now take care of itself.
Well, that's exactly right. Or like I recently heard, well, we've got plenty of sales, so we have no problem.
Yeah.
And guess what? Those sales created a problem because they're very good at sales and they're very profitable, right?
That's right.
Wonderful. But you have to have a supporting cast of your vendors, your suppliers. All of that's got to work in concert so that you can ultimately serve your customers. And if you don't have that in place, that's what we mean by supply chain. You can get in worlds of trouble, and that's where these guys are.
You know, one of my sukis as a business owner was what you just said.
Sure.
My issue was ramping up in terms of sales, becoming explosive in terms of having people out on the street selling.
Right.
And I mean, fueling that fire.
Yeah.
But on the operational side of the business, some of those issues that you know, when you would just let perfectly good deals go by the wayside,
right,
you know, it was okay because there were going to be 3 or 4 more to take its place.
Sure.
And I do feel like that when I operated my business, sometimes I did not get the most out of my business because things were going so fast and things were going so well, so great all the time that those small little details I didn't pay attention to. And when you think about it, Irv, the smallest hole will sink the mightiest ship.
That's exactly right.
So cover your hole.
I mean, the Titanic didn't take a direct hit.
No, wait. I mean, you know, it was just a little bup along the side.
It ripped a few bolts out of the hull.
Yeah.
And, there you go.
And it brought her down.
Yes.
So, I mean, and those are things, and even in my business, I'll tell you one thing that was a good problem. My operations manager at the time when I hired her and got her on so that she could take over the reins, because I was doing so many things. I was building properties. I was managing a real estate firm. I was also the head of a mortgage operation, and just in going through every deal and every closed transaction, I think she found something like $40,000 or $50,000 in just undeposited checks.
Wow.
In our operation.
Wow.
You know, so and she came and she switched everything so that we started receiving money electronically, and it was that type of system that we as entrepreneurs. I mean, Irv and I, we fall victim to some of the things that we talk to you guys about. So when we advise you, it's not just in theory.
No, it's not.
You know, these were things that we had to do and we had to fix in our own business.
That's right, and things we wound up, you know, that just completely got destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, hey, I still got the shovel. I mean,
and I got a couple T-shirts.
That's exactly right. But you know, John, today we're going to be talking about intellectual property.
IP.
Intellectual property. How many small businesses have an intellectual property and they don't benefit from it, or worse, it's escaped them now, and now their competitors have it?
Well, and you know, when you look at intellectual property in and of itself, how many small business people even know what that is?
Yeah, well, that's why we're talking about it on this show.
We hear the term being used.
Right.
We know in theory what it's supposed to be and what it means, but I don't have very much of that.
Yeah.
You know, if you think like I do, I mean, I've never had one original thought in my life.
Well, that's not entirely true.
Oh man, I'm telling you,
I'm entirely
like
true.
What's the company? 3M.
Yeah, but
you know, I don't make none of the crap I sell to you. I make all of the crap I sell to you much better.
Yeah, that's right. But no, I mean, seriously, you're absolutely right. You're expressing a sentiment that a lot of small business owners have, because they feel like, well, I don't have an intellectual property.
Right.
I don't have something patentable.
Right.
You know, and that's what they relate intellectual property to.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, intellectual property is just about anything.
I'm going to give you the perfect example of intellectual property.
All right.
If you're watching us right now on ustream.tv, see this formula that we're hiding here with the banner?
Right.
That's a great example of intellectual property.
That is a great example of intellectual property. And by the way, we really appreciate all of your chat requests and all of your emails and all of your tweets asking us about the secret formula that John has on the board behind us.
Yeah, this is what we call a good chicken recipe right here. So
that's right.
We can't share that with anybody.
That's exactly right. And in fact, it's protected under one of the intellectual property protections we're going to talk about today, trade secret.
Trade secrets.
That's right. That's why this formula is obscured by our good friends at Sales Nexus.
Yeah, and we're gonna get that off the board for the next time that we broadcast. Somebody's gonna have a high definition camera and be able to decipher that.
That's right.
All right, now I tell you what. Where do we want to start then? If we're going to talk about intellectual property, first of all, let's identify what it is.
Yeah, let's talk about
what exactly is it? How do I know if I have that in my own business?
Right. Yeah. So intellectual property is, by definition, creations of the mind. And that right there escapes a lot of people because they say, what's a creation of the mind? Let's say, like you were talking about earlier, John, well, I don't create anything.
Yeah.
But the minute you improve on something that's already created, in other words, you've created an improvement, the improvement is in fact an intellectual property. The how you did that improvement, or if you've taken seemingly unrelated existing items, maybe even patented items, and you assign them, you align them into a particular process that creates a solution, that, folks, is an intellectual property.
Well, and I think with that being said, people need to take a look at their business and their business processes,
right,
to see if intellectual property does exist and should they be doing something to protect it.
That's exactly right. So, and folks, let me just tell you, intellectual property, most of you have an intellectual property in your business. That's what makes you competitive.
Before we go to break, I'm going to leave you with this. Irv and I are not attorneys, and we do not practice law, although we play lawyers on TV. But if you are wondering if you should get some intellectual help in terms of the legal aspects of what you do, definitely consult your attorney. More on intellectual property when we return. You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes. It's brought to you by Small Business Today magazine. To get your free copy of the book that we publish every single month for and about Houston's top entrepreneurs, go to smallbusinesstodaymagazine.com. More in a moment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
Or even worse,
we've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
So how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cuny is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancuny.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now,
Excuse me, heavy news?
you know, disasters, politics, stock market,
And this alternative is...
coffee news. It's It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
Free?
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
Now playing at Regal Entertainment Group Theaters.
From Christopher Nolan. The storm's coming. The legend ends in IMAX. What are you? I'm Gotham Directed. The Dark Knight Rises. Rated PG-13. Visit IMAX.com for showtimes and listings.
Go to www.regmovies.com to find showtimes and buy your tickets to this and other great feature films now. That's www.regmovies.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today. Visit us on the web at svtmagazine.net. Here are your hosts, Cruise and Hughes.
Okay, welcome back to the show. We're talking a little bit about intellectual property today. We're telling you rather to take a look at the aspects of your business. What are your business processes like? And Irv, as we talk about that,
Right.
Let me tell you, when I say that I've never had an original thought in my life,
Right.
That's really not too far from the truth.
Well,
When you look at the businesses that I've been involved in, what I've always done is I take a look at what you're doing, and then I look at your process and break it down, and then I figure out how can I operate this more efficiently,
right.
and how can I either pass that savings on to my customer,
Right.
or use that savings to reinvest in the business,
Right.
and do that on my own. And that's what I did with my companies. How could I, even with me being a mortgage banker, how could I get 100 people out there?
Okay, so let me make sure I hear you correctly. What you're saying is, since you didn't have an original thought, you looked at other people in mortgage banking.
Right.
You analyzed what they were doing.
Yes, I did.
You looked at their processes in that analysis.
Right.
Figured out what they were doing. Saw opportunities or places where you could perhaps do it better.
Right.
All right. That's reverse engineering.
Okay.
And that's okay.
Okay.
And then you implemented the changes you needed to make that made you competitive in that space. So what you created was not there before because you were not competing with yourself. The process that you created, the steps, the thing that ran internally in your company, that was your company's intellectual property. The process itself. When you told your employees that when a call comes in, you will do this. When this form comes in, do that. All of that internal minutia that you created so that thing would make money. Even though there were other people in the space who did similar things, your company did things that, while similar, certainly were different. If we lined up processes side by side, two mortgage banks, your step 3 might have been someone else's step 1.
Surely.
Or your step 13 might have been someone else's step 11.
Right.
Okay. Well, then that's your intellectual property.
Yeah.
You created that. That's the point. And what we're saying today, folks, is take a look at your company, take an assessment, and find out what the value of your intellectual property really is. Because, and let me be crystal clear about what I'm saying here, folks. Your business is one valuation, but the real value in your business may not be the business. It might be what you created to make that business competitive.
Case in point, since we're using my old business as a case study here,
Sure.
I took that process,
right,
and I started selling it to other mortgage companies.
Right.
So then I became a consultant,
right,
whereby I advised and I probably helped somewhere in the neighborhood of about 65 or so.
There you go.
Mortgage companies who've paid me as a consultant to
Right.
come in, analyze their process, figure out what was necessary, what was important,
Right.
what wasn't,
right,
and how to squeeze more productivity out of their current operation.
Exactly. Now, who created those processes?
I did.
Okay, so there you go. So that was a creation of the mind.
So that would qualify then.
That would qualify.
Man, I feel good about myself today.
You should feel good about yourself too, folks. That is that what you're doing in your business to make yourself competitive is a creation of the mind. By definition, that's intellectual property.
So we're talking about ideas, creations, inventions,
right?
Processes.
Processes.
So what are you doing? What makes you different than your competition? And I have to add this. Sometimes I would see, and even now as a consultant, I see that some people jump in and do certain processes simply because that's the way that they were taught to do them, and that's the way that the last place that they worked did them, and they never ask the question, why? Why am I doing it this way?
That's right.
Is there a way to do it better?
That's right.
And if so, how can I implement that?
That's exactly right. And incidentally, one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people have with intellectual property, especially as it pertains to small business, is because they may have something in the business that's not, quote, patentable. In other words, it's not a widget. It's not a thing. It's not a handle. It's not something tangible. We're talking about intangible assets. And I'm going to throw that in there because I'm a finance guy. Assets. Intellectual property, folks, is one of the least used assets in your business. Intellectual property. Think about this for a second, John. Why do we call it a property?
Because it's something. It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
A creation.
That's right.
By definition of the mind.
And
right?
So property constitutes something that is tangible.
So there's property in here.
I guess there would be real estate.
All right, then exactly. And in your case, it was mortgage banking. The
That's
process,
right. That's right.
That was a property. And you know what? You know why you were able to sell it?
Tell me why.
Because you were able to package it.
Correct.
You see, so an intellectual property is a creation of the mind that you can package. And here's the process. If you've got a pen, this is a good time to write. If you can create it, you can package it. If you can package it, you can duplicate it. If you can duplicate it, you can assess a value to it. If you can assess a value to it, it can be sold. Therefore, an asset.
So now let me take a step back.
Okay.
So what you're saying then is that essentially I could make a business out of my business in terms of my process and how I run my business.
Right.
Could become a business in and of itself.
And that's right. And I work with several people around the country, John, who business it is, their gifting is their imagination. They don't themselves have a business. And I want you to know that I'm working with about 5 of these folks, and I've done so over the years, and they have ideas. I generally come along and beat up their idea.
Right.
Slam it upside the wall. I try to tear it all to pieces. I strain it under marketplace pressure and competition.
Mm-hmm.
But if that idea still stands, then we move on and talk about, okay, well now, how do we package this? And then how do we place a value on it? And then how do we sell it? Who do we sell it to? And so there are people, and some of these people may be some of our listeners, John, who actually have intellectual property that they've been sitting on, and they're not monetizing it because they don't know how, or may not even know that they have. These are assets that many people don't even know they have because they think the business is the value.
And let me say this: my time as a consultant, I made the equal amount of money.
That's right.
As a consultant,
right,
selling my process,
right,
and going in and talking about how to implement my process,
right,
than as I did owning an entire company with 20 employees, 100 salespeople,
right,
without
right,
any of that. I was the only person.
Well, exactly right. And that's what I mean by, that's why I wanted to talk about it on the show today, John, is because a lot of people are struggling with how to create value in their companies and how to raise money and how to do these things alternatively away from the traditional ways that we've looked at a business and looked at what a business is and what a business does.
Well, I want us to cover those questions that you just posed here just a second ago.
Okay.
The first thing that we want to know is that what is your process? How do you know it works? What makes your process so great? What makes it better? Now, let's say that they have that idea.
Okay.
Let's say that they know that this process works. They've tested it.
Right.
And retested it.
Right.
And it's working.
Right.
Now, how do we put a value on it?
Well, that's where it really gets to be fun. And I want to give you guys a little bit of homework right here. Here's where you go to take your valuation methods. There are valuation methods, just like there are valuation methods in a business, there's valuation methods on intellectual property. Okay, now where you go to find these valuation methods is www.wipo.org. WIPO.org. And it's the World Intellectual Property Organization. Okay? And all things intellectual property. Folks, if you think you have an intellectual property, please go to this website, read all about intellectual property. There is a special section of WIPO.org that is dedicated to small businesses.
Okay.
And that so there's a lot of information there, but I want to give you that reference. Go to wipo.org and then click on small business and then take it from there, because the information is kind of scaled down for a small business owner to be able to really get the grasp of the concepts. All right. And so when you're looking at valuations, how much is my idea worth?
And that's the question that everyone asks.
That's the question. And there are a few methods to go through, and I'm going to run through them real quick before we take a break here. One of them is the transactional method. How much will a willing seller sell this for, and how much will a willing buyer pay for this? Willing meaning it's easy for them to make the buying decision. What is that number? Number two, the income method. How much could be made if somebody did exactly what I'm doing by someone else? How much could they make? That's an income method.
Okay, but are these questions that you want to ask yourself about your process?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because you're trying to make a value assessment.
Okay.
Okay. Number three, replacement method. How much would it cost to replace this system or process that I've created if I just had to replace it from scratch? And then number four is a binomial method, and that's a mathematical market algorithm, and don't get into that one. That's for the experts. Folks, you're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes, brought to you by Sales Nexus. If you have not had a chance to check out Sales Nexus customer relationship management system, this is a good time to do so. Go to salesnexus.com and download your free trial copy. So today you're listening with us at Small Business Today, and we are going to be back to talk more about intellectual property. I was going to tell you something else, but stay with us. The education will continue in a moment.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
or even worse,
We've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
so how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cuny is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancuny.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now,
Excuse me, heavy news?
you know, Disasters, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is
Coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
free.
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
Now playing at Regal Entertainment Group Theaters.
From Christopher Nolan. This storm's coming. The legend ends in IMAX. What are you? I'm costumes reckoning. The Dark Knight Rises. Rated PG-13. Visit IMAX.com for showtimes and listings.
Go to www.regmovies.com to find showtimes and buy your tickets to this and other great feature films now. That's www.regmovies.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're wherever you are.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Today we're talking about intellectual property. We're asking you to take a look at your business, take a look at your processes. Are there or is there any underlying value that exists in your business that you're not fully maximizing? Of course, your business works; it operates great, but what else can you do with that? How can you take your process and even monetize that? Is there something else? Even if you want to do it, you may just determine what that process is, or what that value is, and then work hard at protecting it.
That's right,
and not necessarily bringing it to the marketplace, unlike I did in my business.
Correct. And now, John, you know, we started kind of using your business as a case study. What processes did you go through to arrive at a value for your process? Because you mentioned earlier in the earlier segment that you were able to put that together and then sell it to other people.
Well, I'm going to say, first of all, that aspect of my business fell into my lap.
Okay.
I had several employees who would come and work with me, and they would go and work someplace else because they were running for larger commissions. But then they would come back and end up working with me, and then they would tell me that their process over there wasn't as clean as the one that we operated by.
Right.
So although I was making more commission, but more commission on less sales is not more money.
That's right.
It's just more commission on less sales.
That's right.
And so after hearing that, and then someone came once and asked if they could pay me to consult them by coming in and setting up their business. And I accepted, but I had no way of knowing what to charge them.
And so how did you arrive at what you charged them?
Well, I tell you what, how I arrived at it. I sort of look, and I hate to say this on the air because it seems so wrong. But I charged them really based on what I thought they should be able to afford, based on the size and scope of their organization.
All right. Now, did you think that person was unreasonable?
Unreasonable?
Yeah. Did you think that was a sane person? Did you think that was
absolutely.
a reasonably intelligent person that you were dealing with?
They were very intelligent.
All right. And then you made an assessment based on the size and scope of their organization and the scope of work you were going to have to do to get them where they wanted to go.
Right.
All right. And so, and you're saying that you don't feel right about that? You actually went through a process that you should have gone through.
I feel great about that. It's just at the time, I was just flying by the seat of my pants.
Right.
And so even when they asked me, well, what would you charge? I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to charge because I don't know how much work is involved.
Right.
I need to ask enough questions before I can come up with the right answer.
Correct.
And so, and as I found out, okay, you have this many people, this is how much production that you do.
Right.
This is where you're trying to get to.
Right.
What is it going to take for me to be able to identify where you are based on where you want to be and build that bridge?
Gotcha.
And the price that I came up with was $5,000.
Okay.
Now I got to say this.
Okay.
The last few customers that I did this for all paid $25,000 a piece.
Oh, really? What happened?
Well, I realized after speaking to my mentor that I was severely undercharging the market when he helped me understand the cost and the expense to which I had to learn this method.
Right.
When he says, John, you're not even covering your cost.
Right.
What it took for you to be able to develop this is not properly being compensated or taking into to concept when you go out and resell this.
John, you're actually talking about one of the valuation methods that we just went through when we went to break.
I told you I was a genius. I just didn't know it.
You were literally going through that, and what I was telling you is you might have gone through these valuation methods, these steps, but you might have done it in seconds. And quite frankly, folks, most entrepreneurs make a valuation determination in seconds because it's not that difficult to do once you understand the concepts of it.
Right. Right. And then that's exactly what it was. I mean, I didn't understand it. It was brand new to me. I had to give an answer quick. And I did it, went through it. They paid all cash, one installment. And I delivered for them what I delivered.
So they didn't have a problem paying?
Not at all.
And what about the $25,000 people? Did they have a problem?
They didn't have a problem paying.
Okay. And that was because by then, right, you had probably valued your process based on an income method. Was now part of the formula. And what I mean by that is those people made that same valuation based on income because they said, hey, if I invest $25,000 in this process, it will make me this much income.
Right.
Substantially X more than perhaps what I would have been making had I not implemented this process.
And that became one of my selling points, is being able to help determine what the value was associated with this. So my thing is that once I looked at where you were,
right,
and then I was able to tell you,
right,
hey, this is where you're going to be if you allow me to come in and do these things for you. So you're going to make this amount of money over the course of the year at this price I'm charging you. Should be only 10% of what you actually pocket.
That's exactly right. And John, that's a valuation method, and that's what I'm talking about. And I'll bet you most of our listeners have an intellectual property asset that they do not know they have, or worse, they know they have it and can't value it because nobody's come around to teach them how to think about valuation of intellectual property.
Well, I'll tell you what, once you go through the process of valuing, first of all, identifying.
Right, you got to identify. You got to take an assessment.
You got to take an assessment, and you have to identify what your intellectual property is, or what's so special about your process. Why is it that you're so successful doing what you do? Now, here's the thing: if I were a track star, if I were Usain Bolt,
right,
my method really doesn't mean much to the next guy. I mean, Usain Bolt couldn't sell me a $1,500 tape or book or process of how to shave 2 seconds off my 100-meter dash.
Right.
Because that would still leave me somewhere in the high 12.
Right.
I'm not going to win any races. So if you have a process whereby you have such a specialized talent or a specialized gift, then that's marketable and that's great. But for you,
right
now, what's really good is when you can take a process where someone, some otherwise unseemingly or inconspicuous business person could come along, put your engine into their business, and then experience explosive growth.
Right.
That, to me, has value.
Right. And it absolutely does, because it's that thing that you do better than everyone else in your space.
Right.
That, like, for example, how you brought up Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
How valuable would his diet be to somebody? That's a world-class sprinter.
Valuable to that person. So his market is very small.
That's my point.
Yeah, his market is very small.
But still, we agree that probably his diet would be valuable.
I would agree.
Because, whatever it is that's causing him to outrun the fastest people we have on the planet by 2 seconds.
Right.
I think would be valuable to somebody else who also is a world-class sprinter.
And mostly those people would be his competition, and I think that they would find value in that.
And I'll bet you he's protecting that.
I would say so. Because if there were only 10 other men who exist that could even challenge me, I think I would keep that a secret.
That's exactly right.
But if you have a process in your business, as did I, whereby, hey, I have a way that I could not only get 50 people in my business, but I have a process at which I could bring these people in, train them to do what I need them to do, and make them productive, make them to the point to where they earn enough money that they're able to take care of their families.
Right.
And then have a process that's conducive for them to produce that type of business where we get that business out the door very quickly.
Well, that's exactly right. And really, John, when we talk about the valuation methods, that's what we're talking about. What's going to be the value to the person who is actually making that purchase?
Now, I got to say this, though, Irv. I mean, once you've identified the property,
right,
or the process,
right,
and you're able to attach a value to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you arrive at the point of how do I market this? And that's the crossroads where I was after I had 3 clients.
Right.
I went to 3 people and 3 people paid me.
Right.
Then I came back to my office and I said, wait a second here. I need to close my door. And think about this.
Right.
I'm on to something.
That's right. And now you have to, there's 2 things you have to do in that regard. One, you have to package it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And packaging, don't get hung up. I'm not necessarily talking about a box and a wrapper. All right. Packaging simply means, how do you present? What is the deliverable? What does someone physically get from you that guides them along this path?
Right.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Packaged and sold. Right. And so in the marketing of it, now you were stuck with the idea of, now how am I going to convey this intellectual property to somebody else? What are they going to, they're going to pay me. I'm going to go and I'm going to do some of this. But ultimately, when I'm done, what will they have in their hands?
Yes. Yes.
The package.
Well, I tell you what, I was at that place. And if you'll indulge me, I'll go through.
What did you do?
Well, I tell you, the first thing I did is I got on the phone with someone that I trust with my business life.
Right.
And my mentor and I, we talked about how I could put this together. Now, we go back and we use Usain Bolt. Now, selling his package to all the high school kids in America, now we're talking about something.
Right.
And so my thing is that I wanted to do something like that. There were tons of people that were in my space. I mean, everybody and their uncle were mortgage brokers.
Right.
So as a banker, I wanted to, so how could I teach you how to become a banker? How can I teach you how to become number one?
Right.
And you know what? I think we should probably go to break.
Okay.
And then when we come from break, I'm going to go through the list of things that were very necessary for me to have people coming to me.
Right.
Every single day.
That's good.
Asking,
That's
John,
good.
how can I get this process?
That's good. Folks, do you have an intellectual property that you can package and sell? Guess what? It's an asset that goes on your balance sheet. To have your small business featured on Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes, you can call our business office at 832-460-2020 or contact us through our website at smallbusinesstodaymagazine.com. You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes, brought to you by Small Business Today Magazine and Sales Nexus. We'll return in a moment. Stay with us.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
or even worse,
We've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
so how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz at 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cuny is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancuny.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now at
Excuse me,
Heavy news?
You know, disasters, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is
Coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
free.
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
Now playing at Regal Entertainment Group Theaters.
From Christopher Nolan. This storm's coming. The legend ends in IMAX. What are you? I'm Gotham's reckoning. The Dark Knight Rises. Rated PG-13. Visit IMAX.com for showtimes and listings.
Go to www.regmovies.com to find showtimes and buy your tickets to this and other great feature films now. That's www.regmovies.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today. Visit us on the web at svtmagazine.net. Here are your hosts, Cruise and Hughes.
Okay, welcome back to the show. If you need a great CRM, you can always go to salesnexus.com. It's one of the few CRMs that will give you a free test drive. I definitely encourage you to get in there, test it out. They have a great widget that they use. It's called Lead Ferret.
Yes.
And I know that you are just giddy about
I
Lead
am
Ferret.
giddy about Lead Ferret, John. And one of the reasons why I am is because, folks, you can go out and buy a lot of different CRMs, and they all have some great features and functionality for managing your customer relationships. But what's different about Sales Nexus, its real value, is that not only do you get a CRM, but you also get your CRM populated with brand new prospects that you select that best fit your business.
And you can pick those prospects according to region, income size, types of business.
You can get very granular with where you're going to pick those folks from. And I think that's extremely innovative. That's innovation, folks, and it's worth every penny.
salesnexus.com. All right, guys. We were talking about finding out now that we have a underlying value in our business. We have an intellectual property or process that we now can package and sell outside of the scope of what we normally do in our operation.
Correct.
And we've already figured out what the value of this should be. Now, how do you market it? That was my question in my business.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Before you talk about how do you market it, let me ask you this. Why were you comfortable marketing your process to other people that were in your same industry, where now you're going to create competitors, aren't you?
Yes, I was. Well, let me say this. I did not create the competitors. The competitors were already there.
So now you're creating better competitors?
I made them better, but I still had confidence that they were not going to outperform me. And I gave them everything that I did.
Okay.
The only thing that they did not have was my personality in their business.
Right.
But all as far as the processes went, and all of my people experienced gains.
Okay.
Over what they had produced the year before.
Okay. And so what you're saying is your intellectual property, one of the features of it was once you transferred it, okay, now it would go on and people could do it without you.
They could do it without me.
Okay.
They could do it without me. And so the thing is, I had to figure out now, how do I market this? Well, I had gotten a letter from the state in 2000 from the agency that regulated us here in the state of Texas. I'd gotten a letter from them in 2000 stating that I was the largest mortgage brokerage on record at the time. So I kept that letter. And then I thought, you know what I need to be? I need to be the expert.
Right.
So if I make myself the expert, people will pay me for that, because the first client who came in, the reason that he came in is because somebody referred me as being
the expert.
The expert.
Right.
So then there was a four-pronged approach. I had my state letter that said that, hey, the state of Texas has said that I'm the biggest and I'm the baddest out here.
Right.
So you should believe it. Then I went to my peers, other companies that I had assisted, and those companies who had gains in terms of their production, in terms of their retention for their salespeople.
I want to interject here. These are other people who paid you.
These are other people who paid me. I got letters from them. Then I got letters from some of the mortgage banks that I sold my loans to, who talked about the level of quality at which we produced and the fact that I was one of the largest producers that produced for them in the nation. I mean, I had mortgage companies flying us all over the place, giving us tickets to, even when the Texans played the Titans, very first game ever.
Oh, wow.
I had box seats.
2002.
Yeah, I had box seats in the box, and all that came from one of the mortgage lenders I was selling loans to. So I got letters from them showing that, hey, this guy knows what he's doing, so much so he's won our production award for this quarter, this year, that year. Then I went to academia, and I started teaching in the real estate department at Houston Community College. So once I became a professor, then that sort of gave me that expert status. And then lastly, I went to the media.
Right.
I started writing letters of opinion to the news outlets. Whenever there was a question about what was happening in the mortgage market, I would show up and speak for free. I'd write a letter for free, and my name started appearing in certain business articles and so forth. So once I had all four of those areas covered, I had a marketing package that was so easy for me to sell because everybody wants to do business with an expert. If you go to Walmart this evening and something happens in that store that you dislike, the first person that you're looking for in that organization is not somebody with the blue smock on.
That's right.
You're looking for someone with a necktie on.
That's right.
Because you want to go to the top. You want to deal with the person who can correct this situation.
That's correct.
People are the same way in their business. When they do business, they want to do business with someone who is the expert, the bona fide expert. So once I became that, well, then people found other people and they came and found me. And it made the selling process so much easier for me.
Now, John, let me ask you a question. The people that you sold your process to, your intellectual property, were they under your control during this time? In other words, were they like franchisees of yours?
No.
Or did you license your intellectual property to them? Now, before you answer, I want to qualify.
Okay.
There's two ways, folks, that you can expand your business through intellectual property. One is franchising. Many people are familiar with franchising, but there's a lesser used process. Only the savviest of small business owners use this one, and this is licensing. This is where you maintain ownership of your intellectual property and you collect something called a royalty. All right, great way to build your retirement if you have suffered a little bit there. But nonetheless, you want to look at these two ways. Now, John, with that said, I'm asking, which way did you do it? Or did you come up with a hybrid of your own, so to speak?
Well, it was I don't want to say it was a hybrid because I didn't license that intellectual property. We just helped other people who were already in that space.
Gotcha.
And if they needed help, they found us and we came over, looked at their operation and got them going. Once they paid us, that was the end of our compensation.
That's extremely generous of you.
Yeah.
Extremely generous. I'm impressed more. I really am. No, really. I mean, it's not something that most people would do with people who are potentially competitors in their space.
True.
It's just I mean, I'm not being flip about that. I mean, that's very generous.
Well, and I figured that it was better to have that type of setup and arrangement versus, if you do license someone, you have to have, in my opinion, some type of system that's conducive for tracking.
Right.
In terms of tracking how many sales are done. And in the business that we were in, it was very difficult to track, and so if I did license it, there were still so many ways that a person could go around me. So I just felt that it was better to give them everything that they paid for and then some, and set them off on their way so that they could be successful.
Yeah. Well, no, I just think that's fantastic. And no wonder you've had the level of success that you've had and still have, I should say, in business, is because that generosity absolutely does count. It absolutely does play. And incidentally, folks, one of the things that you want to make sure you do with your intellectual property, make sure when you're evaluating whether or not this has any value, here's the question. Will it bring an efficiency to someone else's business? Will it bring an increase to someone else's effort? Will your intellectual property help someone have a better business, a better company, or a better life? That's the question. And you got to be generous about that. Well, we're going to take a short break. I want to come back and we're going to talk about protecting those ideas. And we're going to give some points on how you can protect your intellectual property when we return. Right. You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes, brought to you by Small Business Today magazine. Stay with us. We'll return in a moment.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
or even worse,
We've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
so how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash. I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cooney is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancooney.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now at,
Excuse me, heavy news?
you know, disasters, politics, stock market,
And this alternative is...
coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
Free?
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
Now playing at Regal Entertainment Group Theaters.
From Christopher Nolan.
This storm's coming.
The legend ends in IMAX. What are you? I'm Gotham's Reckoning. The Dark Knight Rises. Rated PG-13. Visit IMAX.com for showtimes and listings.
Go to www.regmovies.com to find showtimes and buy your tickets to this and other great feature films now. That's www.regmovies.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're wherever you are.
Okay, welcome back to the show. You're listening to Cruise and Hughes. We're talking about intellectual property. And Irv, we went to break. You said that you were going to come back and enlighten the listeners on some points that they could keep in mind in terms of protecting that intellectual property.
Folks, you have 4 protections that are afforded to you in the United States regarding intellectual property. These are 4 basic protections of intellectual property, and I'm going to give them to you. Number 1 is copyright. That's one that we're all pretty much familiar with. When you write something, it's yours. When you lift the pen from the paper, you have copyright. You then own that. But you have to register that copyright so that someone else has the idea that it's yours. You have title to that. So that's copyright. The second one is patents. Patents, everybody's familiar with patents and how patents work and that sort of thing, as far as whether or not you created a gadget. Whatever the gadget is, if it's something tangible, then you have that ability to patent it. Another thing is if you create a tool. That's a utility patent. That's a different type of patent, because now you have a tool, something that lifts something that moves something that opens a can, something that's a shovel or a different type of tool, a weed eater, if you will. That's a tool, so you have a utility patent. And then lastly, and the one that's most widely used, is trade secret. And that is where you don't disclose the inner workings of your particular creation or invention. You just keep it a secret. Like, for example, the Coca-Cola recipe. That's not patented, folks. It's under trade secret. That's how it's protected.
And the reason that they don't want to patent it?
Because they'd have to disclose what's in it.
And then how long does a patent normally last?
And then it'll last 10 years.
So, and then eventually everybody would have
it. This way, they've been able to protect their intellectual property for hundreds of years because trade secrets do not expire.
We hope that you found something creative and useful out of today's show. We encourage you to look at your business and look at it forensically and figure out, are there any underlying values there in your business as it relates to your intellectual property? Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in to Small Business Today with Cruise and Hughes. I'm John Cruise.
I'm Irv Hughes.
And this is the place where we discuss the topics that inspire entrepreneurs from thought to action. So until tomorrow, be smart, be successful, and above all else,
be in action.
And Irv and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.